Shifting sands reflect change that is gradual and never-ending, making it the perfect theme for this year's EvalFest. It was a 3-day evaluation festival that brought together some of the world's finest sector experts, creating a melting pot of ideas, innovations, and insights. We at Sambodhi deeply care about bringing these learnings to you, our audience, but with a twist of our own. Presenting Evidence Dialogues, a conversation series which was born out of the many stories that were left uncaptured during the sessions at EvalFest. In this series, we have a stellar lineup of sector experts talking about their experiences and the many learnings they've gathered in their journey to bring transformation. Stay tuned. We spoke to Maria Celeste, General Coordinator at the ReLAC, about alternative evaluation, what it means, what its function is, and why we require an alternative approach to traditional evaluations in the first place. Stay tuned for the conversation. Thank you so much for joining us, Celeste. It's a pleasure to have you here. My first question is around a new initiative that you're developing. It's called Alternative Evaluation. Could you tell us a little bit about it? How did it come together? What's the purpose?
Thank you for inviting me, of course. And Alternative Evaluation is an initiative that was born in 2020. And it was around about my PhD thesis, because I work in professionalization of evaluation, and in that moment I was researching about how we are training evaluators and how is the profile, what is the profile of evaluators. So in that moment I started to ask myself about what are our profiles in Latin America. Then in 2022, we had our ReLAC, Latin American and the Caribbean Evaluation Network Conference, and we worked there about not only indigenous evaluation, but cultural responsive evaluation, etc. So, and we have great special sessions that were not about only panels and etc., but there was special sessions like a Minga. A Minga is called in Latin America a collective word, and we make rituals and etc. So we have sessions with rituals about evaluation. So in that moment, well, it grew a lot, and well, I started this initiative after that.
Right, but why alternative? What is it an alternative to? Could you give us a bit of context there?
Yeah, that's a good question, because there was a great discussion about this concept, because maybe we were thinking about people that could think about like a pessimistic way, or say, no, my way of doing alternative is not, my way of doing evaluation is not alternative. I am the main one. So when we were looking in different dictionaries and globally, we were spreading out with some friends and colleagues, and yes, we started to write this concept of evaluation that think that we have always choose. We always can choose what kind of evaluation we want to do. So first of all, alternative means that you always have the possibility to choose what methodology and what epistemology, the building of the knowledge, and what ontology you will use to do your evaluation. And of course, alternative also means, for example, challenging some traditional ways of doing evaluation. So that's the idea of alternative evaluation.
Can you give us an example of how alternative evaluation challenges, you just mentioned, right? Challenges traditional evaluation.
Yeah, of course. Well, the initiative is like a global tapestry. We say it's a map, and you can find there some cases, and well, some of them that just remember now, are one of the Hawaii, and it's Aloha framework. So Aloha means, as you know, and the solidarity with people. So they have their own values, as you know, Aloha. And there is a community that use criteria about these kind of values to assess and monitoring and evaluate their programs, projects, and activities. So this is one case in which they don't use the traditional ones and they use their values. There are a lot of more cases. For example, in Africa, Bato Pele. Bato Pele is an initiative that started in the government of Mandela, and it means that people is in the center of the public policies, so they use their own principles there with people in the center to think the criteria of evaluations, of the methodology they use in evaluation. After that, of course, beyond that, you have a lot of kind of evaluation of indigenous evaluation. For example, in Alaska, in Canada, we have a lot of work done about evaluations from raising the voices of the First Nations, for example. And in Latin America, my region, we have great experiences about, for example, those communities that do the mingas and use symbology like the chacana. Chacana is a symbology that means that you have you are doing steps in your life, and this is the way you can use in evaluation. So they evaluate with steps and with circles, and there are a lot of things to think about your life and translate it into the methodologies of evaluation.
So bringing local contexts and cultures to evaluation.
Yes.
To build a system that caters to the local people.
Yeah.
Built by the local people as well?
Yeah, built by the local people and built by evaluators that are from there, inhabitants, and participative ways of evaluation. But the great thing is that not only evaluators from outside make the matrix or the theory of change and the process of evaluation, but people do with them. So this kind of work facilitates and legitimates the process and the results and the use of evaluation.
Right. Is there anything in the context of the EvalFest 2024 that you'd like to say to young evaluators and practitioners that may be watching?
I have a lot of young and specifically emerging evaluators near me, and of course that I like to say that evaluation is a passion, and it will be with you all your life, and you will not always be young, but we always need to be emergent, and we need to use our experiences and the first experiences. We need to not to lose the emergent evaluators we are. Because this is the way that we can create, we can we can innovate in evaluation.
Right. Thank you so much for your insights, Celeste. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
And all of you. Thanks.